right. Well, my instant reaction of the 49ers versus Dolphins game, it might not be so instant because clearly it's the next day. Just a little context behind the timing. I was traveling all day yesterday. I went and shot the high school All American game in Texas. So I got home right before the game started. Not a lot of sleep in the last 72 hours. So for me, after the game, I was cooked. And so I'm just going to save my analysis for right now. And I also think it's helpful that I kind of slept on it a little bit. And I want to talk about a bunch of different things from this game against Miami. Obviously, it's a game that doesn't matter. Heading into this game, the 49ers got eliminated from playoff contention right before it started. So it was like the 49ers got delivered a gut punch right before kickoff. Like, oh, by the way, guys, you are eliminated from having any chance at the playoffs, which we already knew was going to be the outcome. But it was just the official reminder that, yeah, you guys aren't going anywhere this year. So it's just kind of like, okay. But anyways, the game starts, and there was some positives and there was some negatives. Let's start with the positives, and then we'll kind of transition into the things that didn't go well because there were a lot of those things too. I wanted to highlight first some of the DBs. I thought Renardo Green and Diamador Lenore played phenomenally. When it came to having to guard Tyreek Hill in one-on-one situations, both of them did a phenomenal job. Both of them have had touchdown pass breakups based on their coverage. So I was really happy with that. I think there are things that we can take away from this game, especially with guys that we perceive to be young cornerstone players. Renardo Green is probably going to be your starting cornerback next year. Diamador Lenore obviously has been paid, and he will be treated as a cornerstone piece. So there were some positives to take away, but there are also some negatives as well. And we'll just kind of bounce back and forth. I would guess if you want to talk about positive, I don't know how positive it is. How well Debo Samuel played. Debo Samuel had 7 receptions for 96 yards and a touchdown. He also added 5 carries for 25 yards. And it was by far Debo Samuel's best game of the season. The only problem is that it happened when it didn't matter. And after all the hubbub and tweets and drama that was generated last week before the Thursday night football game against the Rams, where he fell flat on his face, and the 49ers get eliminated from any chance of making the playoffs. I'm looking at it and I'm just like, I mean, what do we do with this? Like, it's what week is it? 15? No, week 16. And we finally see Debo Samuel have his best game of the year in a moment where it doesn't matter. So it was a conflicting type of performance for me personally because how Debo Samuel handled the week prior didn't sit well with me. I think it contributed to his issues and the team's issues. He put himself above the team, and I don't think anyone cares for that from any player. And he comes out, has a vintage Debo Samuel performance. You could tell the energy was all the way up, and it was like, this is why I say, is it good, is it bad? Because I think what this indicates is how inconsistent Debo is. Debo isn't consistently like this anymore. And that is, I think, part of the problem is, can we rely on Debo? Can we trust that Debo is going to play like this week in and week out? What version of Debo are we going to get? Who knows? How is he feeling? Who knows? We don't know. And again, it comes in a moment where it doesn't matter. So for me, it's just like cool, but where was this last week when the 49ers season was on the line? And so again, like I said, it's a conflicting situation, like with how the context behind it all and how it all played out. He had a great game. Um, it was one of his better games in a while, but it didn't matter. And so it's something that I I struggled with while watching the game. But we did get Ricky Pearsall targeted. He had 4 receptions for 37 yards, so it was great to see him involved. George Kittle continues to be George Kittle, 8 receptions for 106 yards. George Kittle never takes a game off. Like that, when you talk about consistent, what to expect from your superstars, you can expect George Kittle to show up every single game, no matter the circumstances. And again, that's like, again, a polar opposite with Debo right now is you cannot expect what Debo is going to look like. But with George, you know exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get maximum effort, and you're going to get a guy who's playing like it's a playoff game uh, in a game that doesn't mean anything. And that's, again, just shows kind of the football character that George has and why I think George needs to be a part of this team for the long haul. He needs to be a guy that remains. Um, I think he should get extended this offseason. That's the way that I'm looking at it. So offensively, and then obviously Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy has become a big point of emphasis in this game. 26 of 40, 313 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interceptions, sacked 3 times, QBR of 67.1, and a passer rating of 95.1. Now, a big emphasis on this game is the final play, where Brock Purdy throws an interception. And obviously, we can see there's plenty of different thoughts and takes on this particular play. But if you remove your emotion from the situation and you just objectively evaluate the play, it's really easy to see why this play wasn't successful. And of course, people are going to say it's all on Brock. It's 100% Brock's fault. And that's just objectively incorrect. Because if you understand how football works, there's cause and effect to everything. And with the offensive line, it all starts there. It all starts in the trenches. And from there is where the butterfly effect occurs. So when you're looking at the play, and I put a tweet about this out last night, is first of all, he drops back and there's pressure from Chop Robinson off the right side. This forces Brock to step up into the pocket. As he's stepping up into the pocket, you have a defensive looper coming around, and right as he's unloading the ball, he gets hit in the chest. Somehow people have made that about Brock. They have put that on Brock as if that is his fault. And that's just not true, because uh, talking points that are associated with it. Well, look at where the defender is. He would have threw it to him anyways. Again, objectively incorrect, because there's been plays time and time again. You look at the resume of Brock Purdy when it comes to throwing layered throws over the middle. And again, you can see the concept developing. You have Debo running a clear out route who's pulling the middle defender out of the field, which opens up a ton of space behind the underneath defender. The underneath defender is squatting on another route, so you have Jawan Jennings on the back side of it. How many times have we seen Brock Purdy fit that ball in over the middle, over a layered defender, and there was tons of room to throw it? But the problem is, if you're getting hit in the chest as the ball is literally still in your hand and you're getting hit in the chest, what do you expect to happen to the trajectory of the ball? It's simple physics. And the breakdown occurred on the offensive line. The defensive tackle smashes down the guard, Nick Sakel. Nick Sakel is supposed to disengage and pick up the looper. That doesn't occur because the defensive tackle washes him down. So that creates an instant lane, a wide open running lane for the guy up the middle. And keep in mind, Brock is stepping up into the pocket to avoid Chop Robinson. So as he's stepping up to throw, he gets hit. And we somehow are putting that on Brock Purdy. Listen, I can, if you want to say we don't know exactly what the outcome of that throw would look like, that's fine. I can understand that, because we don't know. It didn't we didn't get a good look at it because it was affected by the hit. We don't know if he had a clean pocket to step up into. Maybe if he doesn't have to step up and he hits that back foot and he lets that ball go, you can see all the open field that is available to him to allow Jennings to run under this ball. And you can see the angle that Jennings was on when the ball before he got hit. And you can see Jennings cut off that angle to try to go back towards the ball because he got hit. And so this whole conversation that has come up of, oh, look at Brock Purdy, messing this up. It's like, yeah, he threw the ball and it turned into an interception. That is absolutely true. But you have to look at the cause and the effect. And the cause is the pressure of getting pressure off the right side and getting a free rusher up the middle. He got sandwiched into and wasn't able to complete the throw. And as a result of that, you have an interception. So everyone wants to be so hyperbolic about all these things when the proof is right there in front of you. You can literally pull up the tape and it's there. It's there for you to see. And yes, again, we don't know what that throw is going to look like. Like I can't even say like, "Oh yeah, I guarantee he hits that." We don't know. We don't know because he got hit. And that's the entire point is that anyone making just this grand assumption one way or the other, how do you do that? He got hit. It affected the entire outcome of the play because of the pressure and offensive lineman bust on the interior. So these conversations about, and again, this is how the Brock is discussed. Brock is discussed in a hyperbolic form. It depends on what your narrative is to be able to try to quantify how well he is or how good he is or how well he played. So I would say he played decent. It wasn't great. I mean, obviously, you had that touchdown to George Kittle. It was wide open. It was schemed open. And again, people are going to somehow put that on Brock that Colton McKivitz is getting pushed back and Chop Robinson makes a phenomenal individual play to reach into the throwing lane and bat the ball. And somehow that's Brock's fault too, because he's short. But again, at the end of the day, it's cause and effect. Cause and effect. If Colton McKivitz isn't getting pushed back, Chop Robinson isn't in the throwing lane. So is that on Brock or is it cause and effect? Is it caused by your offensive like he didn't get flat out beat Colton, but he got pushed into the window that allowed Chop Robinson to get into the throwing lane. As an offensive lineman, myself, that is our responsibility. That is our responsibility. Yes, you are going to get pushed back. It's the nature of pass protection. You're already on skates as it is because you have the best athletes in the world rushing at you while you're moving backwards. So it's a challenging spot to be in. But at the end of the day, that particular throw and that situation, you have to put that on the offensive lineman. Yes, in a perfect world, Brock Purdy would be 6'7", and it wouldn't matter because he's just towering over everyone. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. The defender came into the throwing lane and he messed up the throw, and it was very upsetting for everyone involved because it was there. And but again, cause and effect. Everyone just wants to put it on Brock, but we can put it on Brock if Brock had a clean perfect and he's just straight up whiffed, right? That's how that works. But there's causation here and important context that matters that plays into this situation. So, anyways, that's going to be the conversation that continues to swirl around Brock. It is what it is. He had great throws, layered throw to Pearsall and stuff like that. So it is what it is. One of the other things that I think happened from this game is I think Nick, not Nick, I keep calling him Nick, Jake Moody, might have sealed his fate of his future. The fact that you got Kyle Shanahan throwing tablets on the sideline, I think is a strong indication of how he feels about this guy. He said it in the opening call. He's like, "Man, don't make us regret picking you here." He said that after they drafted him, and Jake Moody is making them regret that they picked him. He is not consistent. He is not reliable. And when you draft someone in the third round, they need to be perfect. That's what happens. That's what happens when you take a kicker that high. We said it on draft night. You're putting the pressure. I correlated it to a top 5 quarterback. When you draft a top 5 quarterback, you're expecting them to be almost instant starters and eventually potential, all pros, pro bowlers. That's what happens when you draft a kicker in the third round. You're expecting them to be pro bowl. You're expecting them to be all pro. You're expecting them to be one of the best in the league, and that's just not the case. And he is proven to be unreliable. They keep losing games because he keeps missing kicks. I mean, he's not the sole reason, but those points show up at the end of the day and play a big role. So there, there, I've been of the belief that he would have some leash, but I think he's at the end of his rope. And it's an unfortunate situation because, I don't think anyone in their right mind wanted a kicker in the third round. There's so many examples across the league of undrafted free agents all over the place being the best kickers in the league. And listen, the 49ers have a knack for drafting specialists, and all it does is backfire. They drafted a punter in the fourth round. Mitch can't stay healthy, but you can find a punter anywhere. So it's just an unfortunate situation. The season itself is just teetering on full blown disaster. I mean, it already is a disaster, but it's just getting worse. How they played, and they're just frustrating. The offensive line, I really haven't spent a lot of time on them. They've been awful. They're getting worse as the season progresses. They had so many injuries. Jalen Moore goes out. You have to put Burford at left tackle. You have to put Zakel in for Banks. They just haven't been good. Even Pooney struggled a little bit in this game. Brendel is just continuing to prove that he can't be counted on either. And it's it's a tough time, man. Just hasn't been good. Hasn't been good. And somehow the 49ers still had a chance to come back and win that game. And all things considered, and they just lose in a very 49er fashion this season. So um again, this is a longer reaction just because again I've had a little bit more time to think about it all. And yeah, just it's been a maddening process. It's very in the years that I've been covering the 49ers since 2017, there hasn't been a lot of opportunities where I've been mad about how they play, but I just think they are playing so below their standard that it is maddening because I would have to imagine that's how they feel internally. I would imagine that's how they feel about the evaluations of themselves is like, who are we? What are we doing? What is our identity? Because nothing here is what we represent. Nothing what we're doing is representative of 49ers football. So that's maddening. That creates and elicits an emotion. And that's just where the 49ers are at. They need a revamp. Um they need to find something that works better than what they're doing. And it starts in the trenches and it goes out. So we'll see what the 49ers ultimately do. But that is my long-winded rant and take on kind of the state of the 49ers after that game and just really how I feel about it all. But if you stayed for the whole video, you know what to do. Grab your cookies, drop your cookies emojis in the chat. Let me know what you guys feel about this game as well. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.